And today, I'll be helping you get better at PvP in Dragon Ball Legends. Now, the first thing you need is a good team. I can understand that team building can be quite difficult for some people, as there are over 450 characters in the game. And it can be quite difficult to find a team that suits your playstyle. Luckily for you, I have a channel solely dedicated to team building in Dragon Ball Legends, and my Discord, the Ryu Cord, which is linked in the description below. And my community and I will try and help you create the best team that you can make. The second thing you're going to need is equipment. Now, if you don't know what equipment is, or you're struggling to get good equipment, I've made a handy guide that you can follow that will help you understand what equipment is, why you need equipment, and how to get good ones. So, you've got your team, and you've got your equipment. Now you want to know the tips and tricks that will help you get better at PvP in Dragon Ball Legends. You'll need to have patience while playing PvP to be able to read your opponents. From the second your PvP match starts, you should be taking in every action your opponent makes. One of the most basic functions in Dragon Ball Legends is dodging. You simply swipe left or right when you notice an exclamation point above your character to avoid your opponent's attack. However, dodging attacks is a lot more in-depth than you might think. For starters, you need to know that when you get a perfect vanish, which looks like a flash after you dodge your opponent's attack, you can immediately begin attacking without worrying about your opponent dodging your attacks. What happens when you don't get a perfect vanish? Your opponent can dodge your attack too. Off the top of my head, there are 5 options your opponent has when you dodge their attack. 1. They can instantly dodge anticipating your attack. The way to counter this is to catch them out in a sidestep. 2. They can use tap attacks to halt your actions. The way to counter this is to dash backwards. 3. They can dash backwards anticipating your attacks. There are a few ways to counter this, but I suggest that you switch out if you can, or try and match the card they use, i.e. match their blast or match their strike. 4. They can use the cards in their hand instantly if they anticipate you not doing anything. The way to counter this is to use tap attacks. 5. The ones you should be worried about, those who do nothing after you dodge because they believe they can react faster than you. You want to be able to counter your opponent's playstyle. I suggest using your blast darts as soon as the match begins to see how your opponent reacts, because they often maintain one of these 5 playstyles throughout the match. However, you cannot count on this when you're up against good players. A good Dragon Ball Legends PvP player will use all 5 of these methods throughout their game, so you've simply got to have the correct reaction to each of these methods. Now let's talk about the legendary mid-range strike. It's a joke of course, but it can become a tool in your arsenal if you learn to exploit it. A mid-range strike is a bit of an anomaly, because sometimes you don't get the flash indicating you get a perfect vanish, but you can still immediately combo after dodging one, and your opponent can't do anything. Most of the time though, you will get the flash if you dodge your opponent's attack from mid-range, so you need to learn how to do this. It's quite simple really. The first method of getting to mid-range is to strike cancel. This method can be risky, of course, because your opponent could perfect vanish your attack if you're not careful. But if you can pull it off like I show here, you can put yourself in a position where you've got a perfect vanish. The second and more careful way of getting to mid-range is by floating forwards. Not dashing forward, floating. These are 2 different things. You dash forward by swiping up on your phone and letting go. You float forwards by dragging your finger vertically across your screen. This allows you to be able to control when you sidestep to dodge your opponent's attack and get yourself the perfect vanish. Practicing these methods will mean you get more perfect vanishes throughout your game, allowing you to put yourself in more advantageous situations. Catching your opponent out in a sidestep is one of the very first key skills I learned that noticeably elevated my gameplay. It's very easy to do. All you need to do is watch for your opponent to sidestep and pray your reflexes are fast enough to intercept them. There is a cheat, I guess, that you can use which isn't really a cheat. You need to play with sound on. Every unit in the game makes a sound when they sidestep. So during stop time events like using green cards like Ultra Super Gogeta's green card, or when you use a main ability, you may be able to hear your opponent sidestep. And you won't need to rely on your fast finger reflexes, as you'll have more than enough time to choose a card once you hear your opponent sidestep. Now, a quick trivia tidbit for you. There are some units in the game that don't make a sound when they sidestep. LFSJ2 Gohan is one of them. During his reign of terror over Dragon Ball Legends PvP, his far too great kit was only helped by the fact that you couldn't hear him sidestep, so you had to rely on your fast finger reflexes when you saw him sidestep. Those who played during Gohan Zenkai know exactly what I'm talking about. Tap attacks are something you do in close range with your opponent. If you've noticed, you can't immediately dodge after you use them, because your character is still in the animation. But there is a way to dodge after you use tap attacks. That is, to only tap your screen once. This will get your character to do less tap attacks than the full tap attack animation and allows you to do an action immediately after. I often use this when I dodge my opponent's attacks. They often dodge the tap attacks and immediately attack me, but I can use my Rising Rush as soon as they use a card. This can be quite finicky, so I suggest you practice this often. There are some things in the game called long animations. These are basically green and blue cards that allow you to dodge instantly after you use them. For example, Ultra Super Vegito's green card is a long animation. If your opponent dodges it, they can always immediately combo you. Android 17's green card, which is the best green card in the game because it nullifies cover change, gives you key, draws you a card, and is also a beam that can stop rising rushes, is also a long animation. So be careful using it, and remember, if you dodge it, you can instantly attack without any worries. One of the most useful tricks that I use in Dragon Ball Legends is something I've dubbed the Sidestep and Chargestep combo. This is quite self-explanatory for those who know what charge-stepping and sidestepping is, but for those who are uninitiated, a charge-step is when in between your combo, you charge key for a bit by pressing and holding your screen. You have to charge just for the right amount of time as to not drop your combo, because your opponent can vanish your attack and begin comboing you. So it's quite a difficult skill to learn, and I only learned it quite recently, well, about 2 years into the 3.5 years I've been playing Dragon Ball Legends. Now, sidestepping is a technique you can do in between cards in your combo, where instead of chaining your cards together, you use a card, dash forward, sidestep, and then use another. The point of both of these methods, charge-stepping and sidestepping, is to give you key and to allow your character more time to draw another card. If you use charge-stepping or sidestepping only, you've noticed that after you use 4 cards, your character most of the time will draw another. You have enough key and you'll have the card to do damage. Now, the negatives of charge-stepping is that it's not quite as good when you're training 2 strike arts. For example, if you use a strike art and then charge step, you're not going to gain as much key as you would if you use a blast art and then you charge step. Now, the negative of sidestepping is that you don't gain as much key as you do from charge stepping. So, how do we solve this? Well, we combine the two together. When we use a strike arts, we sidestep. And then when we use a blast arts, we charge step. And when we put the two together, we get the charge step, sidestep combo. Again, it takes away the cons of both methods. With charge stepping, you don't gain as much key if you do it after a strike arts than if you do it after a blast arts. And with sidestepping, you don't gain as much key as you would from charge stepping. But if you combine both, you get the max amount of key you can get during a combo, and you also extend your combo, allowing your characters to draw their card. This method is extremely effective on units that have card draw speed, which most units do nowadays. But it's not always good to do the charge step sidestep combo, because it does take longer than if you would just chain together your 4 strike arts in one big combo. Because of something we in the gacha game sphere call power creep, new units that come out have to be better than those before them to incentivize you to spend money to summon for them. For example, nowadays, every unit that comes out must have some way of dealing with cover change abilities like strike cover changes, blast cover changes, strike and blast cover changes, or even everything cover changes like full power Bojack has. To the point where a unit is looked down on if they don't have some sort of cover change nullification in their abilities. Because of the nature of gacha games, you're not always going to get the new shiny unit with cover change nullification, so you need to learn how to deal with them by dropping your combo. I must warn you, this is the hardest thing I've had to learn in my 3.5 years playing this game. It's a very hard thing to pull off and nearly impossible with lag, but if you can master this skill, it could win you hundreds of games because it's just that good. Dropping combo does 2 things for you. It stops your opponent from activating their cover changes, and it drops your combo as in the name. The second fact is more important, as it almost resets your character's card draw speed, meaning when you combine dropping combo with the sidestep charge step combo, it can extend your combo, in air quotes, since you don't continue the combo you had before you dropped combo, but if timed correctly, you may as well have continued your combo. I said combo 6 times in a row there, it feels weird to say now. But anyway, dropping your combo is a huge game changer. Now why I said it was the hardest thing for me to learn is because if you mistime this by a few milliseconds, your opponent will be able to dodge your attack with whichever character they have in. Not only that, you can't count on your opponent switching characters at the exact time you drop your combo, so you've got to use some context clues. Here I drop combo switching into Ultra Super Vegito because I've used a strike arts with my Bardock on MUI, and I only have strike arts in my hand at the moment, and my opponent will want to save his MUI. So I guessed he would switch into Super Vegito, who has a strike cover change, drop my combo, and began the second combo as soon as my opponent switched into Super Vegito. If I had timed this wrongly, my opponent Super Vegito would have dodged my attack, so this has to be perfect down to the millisecond. Good luck. For some reason, there seems to be this stigma against using a Rising Rush in PvP. I've gotten many comments on my PvP videos telling me that my skill is invalid because I use a Rising Rush. God forbid I use 2 Rising Rushes while using the Angel team because the mechanic is so broken. Now, there's no doubt that if you can win matches without using your Rising Rush, it will help you get better at PvP. So if your goal is to become better at PvP, I suggest stopping yourself from using your Rising Rush. Now, if you don't care about that and just want to win, which is absolutely okay, use your Rising Rush. It's the most broken mechanic in the game and is available to everyone, even though your opponent may get it from the first 7 cards they draw and you won't get yours for 90 counts, but it's available to everyone. Also, don't try and save your rush unless you're up against a team built around one unit. I've used many Rising Rushes to remove revivals and endurances because once it's off my hands, I know that my skill will have to carry me until I get another Rising Rush. And there it is, there's all my Dragon Ball Legends PvP wisdom, or what I can remember of it. You will need time to perfect most of these skills. The try feature on banner units is a great place to try and learn the Chargestep, tap attacks, dashing, floating, etc. I hope what I've given you here helps with your PvP experience, and I hope you have a great day.